Hi, my name is Lyla and I'm the Mini Witch. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this week's video, we are going to talk about how to paint realistic and vibrant skin tones. Making unique and interesting characters can be a little hard. Perhaps you've realized that all your models look the same, or maybe you have a specific vision in your head or a reference photo and suddenly you don't know how to achieve this more realistic and dynamic skin tone. But in this video, I'm going to break down how to paint skin into easy and understandable steps to help you create realistic and unique miniatures. A quick disclaimer. I am by no means a skin expert. I paint mostly light skin models, and it shows in this video. But hopefully this video will help you and me become more confident in a variety of skin tones and help add diversity to your collection as well as the miniature world at large. The most obvious gradation of skin tone is from light to dark or fair to deep. For this video, we will call that gradation depth of skin tone. The second and less well-known type of color is temperature. The temperature of your skin tone is commonly referred to as an undertone. The three undertone temperatures are cool, neutral, and warm. But what is an undertone? Undertones are the color that come through your skin from underneath the surface, which affects the overall hue. Undertone is completely separate from depth. People of all skin tones can have a variety of undertones. These undertones are a big part of what makes different skin look unique. Cool undertones have a hint of blue and pink in their palette. Warm undertones are more yellow and peachy or golden. A neutral undertone has no obvious undertone of pink or yellow, or might have a neutral base midtone with a cold highlight and a warm shadow, or vice versa. To help you visualize this, I have created a graph gradient where depth is on the x-axis and temperature is on the y-axis. Here you can see how these two gradations create an entire rainbow of natural skin tones, all of which you can use when painting your miniatures. If you plan to paint a skin tone you are new at, I highly recommend a reference photo. I didn't do that for part of this video, and I ended up having to go back in and fix some of the skin tones. So save yourself some time and hassle and have a reference photo handy. Painting. First, when painting natural skin tones, I highly recommend having a few skin tone paints on hand. Natural skin tones can be pretty difficult to make from scratch, so save yourself some time and have some on hand. If you want to be really fancy, you can have cool, neutral, and warm skin tones, but those aren't required, as you can easily add colors to your mixtures to create cool and warm and neutral skin tones. If you're looking to buy skin colors for the first time, try to pick either a variety of undertones or do neutral so that you can mix cool and warm later. When in doubt, Reaper sells skin triads, which include a highlight, midtone, and shadow. They're nothing super fancy and you certainly don't need them, and I'm going to show you how to make highlights and shadows anyway, but they are available. If you already have natural skin tone paints, take a moment and examine your colors. Now be sure to include your browns and coppers and golds. Anything that could be used as a skin tone, go ahead, pull it out and examine it. Look at your colors and separate them into cool, neutral, and warm categories. Taking a time to do this will help you understand and identify these undertones in your paint, as well as help you be able to paint these undertones faster in the future. It might take you a little bit to be able to recognize it, and that's fine. Even I'm not perfect, but it will help you in the long run. On to painting. I'm going to paint a fair, medium, and deep skin tone for this video. For each of them, I will explain how one could create a cool, neutral, and warm undertone palette. Now, before you get overwhelmed, don't panic. You really can't mess this up. As long as you choose an undertone and stay a few steps from your midtone, you'll be fine. Mix your midtone, shadow, and highlight at the same time on your palette, and it'll be good enough. Really, this is more about experimenting. We'll start with fair. Begin by choosing or mixing your midtone color. This color will be the basis of your skin tone, and everything else will revolve around it. I'm painting this miniature to have a cool undertone. I'm starting by placing all of my colors on my wet palette. I begin by mixing my midtone of Ishtar Pink, Light Skin, and Arctic Blue. To create my highlight, I pull some of my midtone off to the side and add in my white sands. My shadow is a mix of Ishtar Pink, Brown Leather, Arctic Blue, and Black. I pulled in the black at the last minute to further desaturate my color, but then redid more of my original colors to create more of a happy medium. I follow this basic formula when I paint the face. First, I apply the midtone to the front of their cheeks, up their cheekbones, and on the forehead and chin. Then I add in my shadow color in the hollows of the cheeks and blend it out with the glaze that is between my midtone and shadow. Lastly, I will slowly build up my highlights till I am hitting it with my pure white sands and adding in extra glazing to smooth out the face. Also, don't forget to add shadow along the sides of the nose. To create a neutral complexion is easy. Start with a neutral color, and for a highlight, create the same shade just in a lighter color. Consider lightening with cream, a mix of cool yellow and pink, or just a lighter skin tone if you have it. Don't only add white. White not only lightens, but it also desaturates. To create a warm complexion, start with a warm midtone. Create shadows by adding a copper or warm brown, and brighten the skin tone with a cream or a warm peach and yellow. Medium skin tone. As you move towards deeper skin tones, your colors are going to become more saturated and more vibrant. Whereas before we used very light colors to create highlights and more neutral brown tones to create shadows, medium and deep skin tones can use more intense colors. For my medium skin tone, I'm doing a neutral undertone. I'm achieving this by working with a neutral midtone, creating a cool shadow and a warm highlight. I begin by once again mixing my midtone. Cool brown as before in Brown Leather, with a warm sand color, which is Arabic Shadow by Scale Colors. Combining the cold and warm tone together will create a more neutral midtone. To create warmer highlights, I'm adding in this warm skin tone called Light Skin by Scale Color. My shadows are created by mixing Navy Blue by Scale Color into my Brown Leather. As I begin painting, you will eventually understand why I commented earlier saying that I needed to use a reference. As I paint mostly fair-skinned models, I kept highlighting and highlighting to the point that it isn't actually a medium skin tone anymore. Again, should have had a reference photo. instead of thinking that I could wing it. Because obviously, I couldn't. Though I'm understandably annoyed that I'm trying to teach you how to paint skin tones and I'm making a mistake and ended up almost whitewashing this medium skin tone miniature, it's fine. It's a learning process, and just because I'm teaching you doesn't mean that I'm not also learning at the same time. The important thing is that I realized my mistake, understanding that I want a medium skin tone and this is not medium, and working to fix it. For a cool skin tone, I would use colors that are more yellowish, bearing on green, while a warm skin tone would have more oranges and reds. Deep skin. Deep skin works very similarly to medium skin, except things are even more dark and more intense. Deep skin tones are usually more heavily skewed to their undertone direction. Here I'm attempting a cool undertone on a deep skin. I'm starting with the same leather brown as before, adding a deep wine color called Red Brick from Reaper and a cool pink color called Ishtar Pink by Fantasy and Game. I create my mid-tone with Ishtar Pink and brown leather. My shadow is created with brown leather and red brick. For my highlights, I added pale skin from Scale Colors to my Ishtar Pink brown leather mixture. I move forward the same as I have before, beginning with my mid-tone, placing my shadows, glazing things together, and then slowly building up my highlight. And like last time, I built up the highlight and built up the highlight. And then I built it up so much that it's hardly even a deep skin tone anymore. So on fair skin tones, the highlight and the mid-tone blend together and the contrast is found in the shadow color. Well, for medium and deep skin tones, it's the reverse of this. And your shadows blend into your mid-tones and your highlight is where you build the contrast. So on deeper skin, your highlight is going to be more intense and more concentrated. And that's where I messed up on both of these miniatures. Again, if I had used a reference photo, would have been able to avoid this, but consider it a learning experience for both of us. So here I am again, creating a glaze from my original mid-tone mixture and going back in and reclaiming some of that highlighted area and turning it into a mid-tone, placing my highlights far more particularly and intensely. To create a warm undertone, use more intense red in your shadows and warm peach and oranges in your highlight. I hope that this video was useful and helpful to you. I know that this was a lot of information and I wasn't the best at being able to paint it, but me teaching you helps me learn, and that's really what's important in all of this. If you want to paint more diverse miniatures, I want you to have the tools to be able to do so. If you want to support me, you can do so in a variety of ways, either by following me on Instagram, subscribing down below here on YouTube, or the best way to support me would be to join me on Patreon, where I have a Discord, you can get weekly feedback, and join my growing community. If this video was helpful to you, or you end up using any of these techniques, please comment down below, let me know how it went. And if you post these photos on Instagram, please tag me. I love to see your work. I hope that you are doing well. Go forth and paint more miniatures, and I'll see you next time.